Never fails, man. That music just gets me going.
And gets you right
My
where it
walkout.
counts. Right where it counts. We hope it's counting for you today. It's January 17th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and you're currently listening to episode 651.
Yeah. Another gloomy day up here.
Isn't it?
I mean, it
Pretty
just
sure
keeps coming.
It's gloomy for everybody. I mean, listen, when the West Coast gets rain and it's gloomy, then you know the rest of us are pretty much screwed. And that's what's been happening. They've gotten like torrential downpours and rains, and it's been bad there. It's just been gloomy. It was gloomy here too over the weekend, but the sun is out today. It's crisp. It's cool.
You do got sun,
It's a beautiful day. Yeah, it's listen, that's the time of year. It's we're kind of right in the middle of it, which I think is like I said, that's why it's so hard to start brand new things this time of year, because the weather's shitty. There's barely any sunshine. It's just hard, and I think people are already kind of honestly feeling that. It might be even the topic of the podcast today. But if it's your first time tuning in, we want to welcome you. We appreciate you giving us your time. You know, you have quite a lot of options in the Triathlon podcast universe, and just podcasts in general are valuable. So we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings on this planet, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk a lot about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to the world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, we let you right in. Awesome community, amazing people, and fantastic resource. There are a lot of people in there that have been around the block, have seen it all, have done it all, experienced it all, and are more than willing to lend you a hand in your triathlon journey, which can be a lot of times very daunting with all the information that is out there to sift through these days. That's readily available with just a quick little Google search, or the Triathlete magazine, or the social media. It's constant. So there's a nice solid place, again, with a good amount of people in there that, again, have seen it all, done it all, and be willing to participate, and hopefully allowing you to avoid some of those pitfalls as well. So we'll occasionally go in there and do a little bit of Q&A. That's it. We don't do sponsors, we don't do ads, but we do have one agenda, and it's an important one, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, I'm looking at my weather app, and it's 9 straight days of clouds. How am I supposed to reach my potential?
It's wintertime.
How am I supposed to reach my potential with these kind of odds against me, man? Come on.
I mean, it's just weather. It's just weather.
I know. There's a quote I always go back to, Zig Ziglar, never judge a day by the weather. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
kind of crazy how we get so wrapped up in little things, like that. And we even we kind of mentioned it in a explicit lyric type way in last week's podcast, was I don't see obstacles, I just see are fucking excuses. And that's it, right? I think we all have an excuse monitor or range each day where it's like, we are, on one end, it's like we are very resistant to excuses. We won't find them. And then on the other end of the spectrum is like we wake up and we're in kind of a grumpy mood, kind of the old, the coffee thing. I spilled my first cup of coffee. There goes the day. It's ruined. I mean, it's that kind of a day. And you're like, what kind of a day? Like, nothing happened to you. You just spilled your coffee. But we have like those two ends of the spectrum, and where we kind of, are looking for excuses, and the other days that we're just kind of resilient to them. And I think, and the weather always plays into that. Yeah, it was just raining today. I didn't really want to get out of bed. I'm like, what the fuck does the rain have to do with you getting in your car and going to swim? That's it. Like, I had an athlete yesterday who, and this is obviously me an explicit lyric podcast. I just dropped a few F-bombs off the get-go, but I had an athlete yesterday who, I kind of checked in with Training Peaks, over the weekend. I was like, hey man, how's it going? You doing okay? And he kind of texted me back, and he said, he said, yeah, I'm just, I'm just struggling a little bit with, getting out the door and getting things done. And, he was like, just don't have it. You got any suggestions on how to get going? I said, you know what, man, I do. Get your ass out the door. I mean, it's that simple, right? We overanalyze so many things in life. And, we talked to you before the podcast went live about, quitting before you even get started, which is also like, or you've barely gotten started. Everybody's gung ho and ready to rock, and it's January 1st. And this is my year, 2023. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to qualify for nationals, 70.3 worlds, Ironman World Championships. Probably going to qualify for Boston too. Might even do my first 100 miler. All I know is I'm going to absolutely crush it this year. First week, bam, done. Man, this is telling you right now, man, this is my year. Week 2, got it, nailed it. Another week in the books, crushing every day, beat yesterday. Week 3, get a little bit sick, miss 2 days, motivation's a little bit down, maybe a seasonal depression's kicking in. Starts this week. What are you? Yeah, these things aren't going my way this year. And I'm not real sure what I'm going to do, what my plans are. I might just start training for 2024. It's kind of lay a foundation for this year. Not really go in. I'm probably not even going to have any A races. That is legit how people think this time of year. You are either all the way in and it's going great, or I've kind of hit a few bumps in the road. I'm like, that's life. Like it's that what we call the perfect Pat syndrome. Everything has to be perfect in order for it to line up. And I think a lot of people get trapped this year and are him and hawing over what decision to make, or to go long or to go short. And I'm like, first of all, just stop making so many long-term decisions. Just like make one concrete decision, which is based on your effort, which is just commit to getting better every day, right? To getting your sessions in, to doing the best you can. If you miss a little, get up, move on again. Like take it day to day. But we've gotten so obsessed with predicting and forecasting and planning. I'm like, that obsessive nature opens you up to so many opportunities, again, for excuses and to failure. And then, people are already like rearranging their year because they missed 2 days of workouts.
Yeah. It's a danger zone, man. I was talking to you earlier about, like last night. So one of the things is, I always have looked at like when I worked out the next day, and I try to create a nice 24-hour span between it. And since I work out later in the day a lot, that creates problems. And sometimes I'll get up early and I'll be like, damn, I just don't feel like it yet. I just worked out like, 10 hours ago or something. And last night, so I had my gap in there, but I told you on Sunday, I ended up running too far, I think, for what I was, I was building up, and I just kind of got out on the trails and I got a little lost. And next thing you know, I'm like a half hour longer than I should have. And I felt okay, but I did notice some bad habits developing that night. I went back to the cottage and I started eating a lot of banana bread and all kinds of shit. And, and it was just like, kind of that post run, screw it kind of thing, and just mow down.
Yeah.
And then I woke up yesterday and I'm like, oh boy, I started, you just feel off. You like those things like you're talking about. You start thinking like, yeah, maybe I'll just, start looking at next year. It's like you feel great 2 days before that, and then all of a sudden you do something a little much. And so anyway, last night it was about 5:00, and I went out to my car and I'm like, I had to go to Del Boca Vista and just get something in. And I walked out and I'm looking over in my car at the pool down there, and it's dark and there's lights on and it's kind of sleety. And I was like, man, I really feel like going to run in that, because it's like a really, I kind of love those opportunities, I think. But I was like, man, I can't run right now. I just overdid it yesterday. So I kind of just looked down and I was like, maybe I should just go back in and take a nap. And then I got in the car, like you're saying, just get your ass out the door, and went down to Del Boca Vista. But I adjusted. I did like a long walk on a treadmill, that kind of an effort walk. And then I did some yoga afterwards, and it was kind of like, okay, that's exactly what I needed. So I think we just need to sort of pay attention a little more sometimes to, like what you said, effort, right? Today could be something, and I always talk to athletes about, we don't schedule a lot of off days. It's up to you to kind of adjust your effort on days when you might not have it all. And my thought was, I'll get on that treadmill and I'll just walk, and I'll be like standing there in my Ironman shirt and just walking on a treadmill. And I was kind of getting a kick out of that, actually. And I thought, well, if I start feeling good, maybe I'll just start jogging a little bit. But I didn't. I just kept it to that, and I took it easy. And today I felt a lot better. But I think it's easy for us to dig a hole like in the middle of the week, or just when we least expect it. And I think that just really affects your mentality more. Obviously the sore parts and things like that really stick out, but mentally, are you making weird decisions? Are you kind of like gravitating towards laying on the couch or watching, reruns of Hogan's Heroes or something like that? If that starts happening, that's a bad pattern for you. So you got to be aware of patterns. I think that's I think that's kind of what I'm getting at, is like you start doing things that aren't good for you, and then they kind of get back in your head and they feel so easy, right? They feel like a little bit of a jolt for you. It's like, hey, I can just catch up on some of these old sitcoms or whatever. Start eating some cookies. It can kind of turn bad on it. So I think it's something we got to be aware of, man. And like I told you, you just forget it. It's so easy to forget that you're doing really good and then you overdo it, and then the next day you're like, oh boy, I overdid it. But you can still make good decisions, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
I mean, every day is laced with a million different choices and decisions. It's and I think where the restraint and the objectiveness comes in is being able to make these kind of decisions, then understanding and even asking yourself, like, why am I making these? Is this just for today or is this for the whole year? Because I think what happens a lot with people is, and this goes for every person on this planet, even the greatest athletes in the world, that we always talk about, they just thrive under pressure, right? They're not under pressure every day, all day long, right? Like, no one is always successful and only successful under pressure. No one, right? We all have our days, where we can handle it well, and we have days where we just kind of crumble. Well, one of the biggest pitfalls and kind of traps that I see athletes making so much throughout the course of the year is especially in January, February, March, when the pressure and the expectation should be so low. That's because, listen, like, we led the podcast with it, right? In terms of, it's a hard time of year, right? There's no sunshine. It's cold. It's dreary. You're far enough from last year to where you're not really jiving off it anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're far enough. You're too far away from your big race. You're kind of caught in the middle, right? Last year's kind of motivation and you're getting so pumped off your great race result, or you want revenge for this year. It's like that's kind of dissipated because you're away from it. It's only gonna last so long. And then you got your race plan this year and you signed up for your race and you got that, that daily jolt, but that's gone. And now you're just left with internal or external motivation. And the external motivation, it ain't there for a lot of people, right? Because they do best when, they got their bib number as their Facebook profile. They do best when, the Facebook page for the event they signed up is real active. They do best when they've just signed up for, a race and it's getting a little bit closer and they can do the countdown clock. You got a minute, right? Most of you got a minute before that stuff kind of really, really sets in. And so to find that motivation, you got to look inside. So what most people do is they kind of put themselves under pressure cooker, right? And we talk about this a lot when we start working with new athletes that have tried to do the self-coach thing is, like go on Training Peaks. I'm like, yeah, I think I can do self-coaching. All right, let me do the beginner plan, 12 weeks, start out with 8-hour volume, do great for 1 week and then they get red. They're like, what'll get me going? Intermediate advanced plan. 20 hours a week. Let's do this 2 days in a row and then straight red, right? Like we always overdo it. We overcommit. We put too much pressure. We overemphasize ridiculous expectations that we think are going to last, right? And we always use like kind of the physical pressure on the body, right? That long distance racing or any kind of racing has on you. Like it's but we don't understand, and I think not understand. We don't fully appreciate the level of pressure, emotional and mental, that we put on ourselves with racing and with expectations, right? Or future PRs or first time doing a distance, and that can really just eat away at you, and will cause you to get burnt out. especially like when all you're doing is training inside. And most people train inside way too much anyway, but all you're doing is training inside. Just you and your screen and your expectations and your races that are 8 months away. That's why people get burnouts. I mean, we've talked about this year after year after year the last 3 or 4 years. Is how I just read a front page article on Slow Twitch of the day, and the title was "Get Outside." I'm like, I feel like we've had like 4 podcasts titled that, because the level of burnout in the sport is becoming so high, and I fully believe it's because we have become. You can have you can call it a selfish sport, right, or a sport that's where it's just about you, and it is, because there's teams, but you're spread out, which is us. We're spread out, but we communicate and all these things. But the burnout rate is so high, and I fully believe we can put a lot of that blame on the glamorization and the kind of forced nature of everything done inside. Swim inside, alone. Bike inside, alone. Run on the treadmill, inside, alone. It has a shelf life. It 100% has a shelf life. And the more you do that to yourself, the less likely you are to be able to withstand periods of time where you are down or things aren't going great, because it's just you, right? And that's, I even have that conversation with athletes sometimes, and like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, listen, I know you're not really asking me what is going on with your 30-minute zone 2 run, because not much happens. But what I hear you saying is that you just want to know that somebody is out there that cares, because you're not running with the group. You're not doing things with other people. It's just you. And frankly, most people, anybody in your house, they don't give a shit. They pretend, right? They see you getting all dressed and shoving chamois cream down your butt crack to hop on a bike to go nowhere. Right? Or hop on and play with your virtual buddies. Like, that's what you do. There's no one-on-one connection. So you've got endless amounts of people, burning out. And I do think that's why a lot of people are gravitating towards different kinds of racing, is in that those different kinds of racing it's like gravel triathlon, long distance, like gravel events, trail running. They're all outside. And there's no measure against what you can or can't, in terms of a time. Never done it before. It's experiences. We need that, because I think there is an erosion of motivation that's happening with athletes in every spectrum, right? Because it's constant comparison. It's constant thief of joy. It's constant Strava routes. It's constant king or queen of this. It's PRs, and look at this and look at that. And I heard another coach refer to this as, they call it Stravanoia. It's Strava / paranoia, that everyone else is doing better and bigger and faster things than you are.
Oh man.
And what that does to people, and what that does to us all. And then you can see people and you chase, and it's like you forget to even live your life, that's based on you. And then you get trapped in things, get so down. It's just hard, I think, for athletes any time of year, no matter what, because honestly, is this part of the year easy? No, but a lot of parts of the year are hard too. Call us back in August and we'll be like, yeah, it's just a hard time of year. All parts of the year are hard, right? It's either cool or it's perfect or it's 100 million degrees and it sucks. But the point is to find a happy medium. And listen, there is nobody that's less of a fan than Jim Harbaugh than me. And I was reading an article, and he's staying at Michigan, which is great for everybody else because he'll lose all the big games that really matter. But part of his quote said, I decided that something like short version, I'll total misquote it, but he said, there's no sense in trying to out happy. And I thought that was actually a really, really great quote. And we talk about it a lot in terms of the great is the enemy of good. And I think that we have these, just kind of circle back, is like we all had these visions on a great year in January, and then one thing, and that's going to be the deal breaker, right? And then 1 or 2 bad things happen, or a work trip pops up, or you sign up for a race and this is going to get in the way, and then you kind of keep going back and like, what, maybe I overstep, because if your forecast or your expectation or what you want for the year is only great, anything less than that's a failure. But aiming for good gives you so many opportunities to be successful and to keep going. And that's where intrinsic and external motivation can go to thrive. But having to be great and having to be perfect and having to always get things done is where those things go to die. So you can either, live by it and thrive by it, or you can live by it and die by it. And that honestly, that has to happen now. If you're an athlete that does that, like, you have to reshape and rethink your year to be flexible. And because the more you flog yourself, the less likely you are to even make it to June or July. Right. And that's why when you hear people, I'm on a 24-week build for this, right? Like, just don't even think about it yet. Think about just, getting outside and doing stuff every day. There's a small window in which you can be physically, mentally, and emotionally dialed in all at once. Because what usually happens is you get mentally and emotionally dialed in way too far in advance. Then by the time it's to the point to where you need to be all three, you can only be physically dialed in. And then, but in order to be physically dialed in and get the most out of it, you got to be mentally and emotionally dialed in. So save those efforts, right? Save those effort units to the time of year that really matters, and set yourself up for success.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. I think when the pro triathletes, they peak like 8 to 12 weeks a year max or something like that. Am I right with that, or I don't know.
I mean, twice a year,
yeah,
maybe.
So
it is maybe twice a year. I mean, and most of them be like, yeah, I kind of want to peak here, but I really only care about peaking here, because that's when you go all in.
Yeah. So you were saying, like, earlier in that last break there, turning inside and how we have to do that, and how, I mean, it goes without question that having people around, and we'll see it in run camp in a couple of weeks, and how just generally energizing that can be when things are, we're all getting outside and doing things together and all that kind of thing. But I've been really looking at, like, because I was joking about 9 days of cloudiness, and I've really been thinking about kind of this idea of embracing the darkness, almost literally here, because it's dark so early, and so, there's just not a lot of sunshine and everywhere. It's just this time of year, and how how that really translates into me, because you're out running or something like that, and you can tell when you're at a place where, like, man, this is getting hard, and I've really been kind of trying to stay away from those places. It's about energy, effort, pacing, that type of thing. And like you're saying, man, like, really the wins here are, I find myself doing this all the time. Like on the bike now, I'm like, well, I really don't feel like getting after it too much right now, but I like the idea of getting on there and just riding, getting my legs used to spinning for a longer time, and getting that kind of thing going, and just building up. And I've really been cognizant of keeping my efforts sort of low, because it's still not super easy, especially at this time of the year. Maybe a lot of us kind of let December go. It's to expect us to be able to nail efforts all the time at this time of the year is a fool's errand, I think. And I think it can help dig those holes that we're talking about and create problems. Right now, man, it's like I just tried everything I'm doing right now, kind of has this one focus, and it's like, what's going to make me feel good today? And like I said, probably one of our early podcasts is exercise should give you energy, not take it away. And it's really good to remember that. Right now, especially if you're looking at late season races and wanting to peak, in July, August or stuff like that. I mean, really, how much can you put on yourself with a job and a family and, like, just all kinds of stress and tough weather and all these kinds of things. And when I talk about embracing the darkness, I just mean kind of like embracing my inner self and understanding what that means in the moment, and not overdoing it, because I know that if I try to be somebody I'm not right now, that's just going to be a quick trip into the basement. And really, my whole goal is just to kind of keep moving and keep feeling good right now. And when, you'll have those moments when hey, I got a little bit more right now, just, but, like, don't go for the gold right now, is what I guess what I'm saying, is kind of aim for the silver at this time of the year. And then hopefully the momentum of everything that's starting right now will get you. I mean, it's just so much easier to go harder in the summer. You know what I mean? You're outside, and when the weather breaks and it's sunny, and then you can start thinking about really, pushing yourself a little bit harder. But it's difficult to keep unless you got everything else dialed in around you. But if you've got problems or issues going on or stress building, I think it's just important to really work through this period in a way that, and you know it, when you're out running, you're like, okay, this is right about at my edge. I'm just looking at those edges going back down right now, because it's just not worth it. But if the worst thing that can happen is it can knock you out for a few days. And the best thing that can happen is you could feel good afterwards and then get back to something the next day and just keep that consistency going. It's so hard to do that, man. And I think we always, kind of get sucked into a trap of going too hard, and then that can just backfire.
You hit the nail on the head there towards the end. And is the amount of intensity people do this time of year is insane, especially inside on the bike. They smash themselves like 3 days a week. They got 2 Zwift races, some trainer roads. I'm like, most people, especially if you don't have the aerobic engine, you should do 1, maybe 2 hard sessions a week, maybe on the bike, maybe, because that's a huge ask. It takes mental and emotional focus and effort and stress to do those things. And that's what just starts eating away at your budget to put up with everything else that you've got going on or not going on, right? I'm so far out from my races. Why am I even doing this, right? Build your aerobic engine. Take it easier. Lower stress. Like, I know that's not the most exciting thing for most people, but it's going to make you better. And that's just kind of, again, going back to the word we use a lot, which is, inter-trainers. They want to train, but they're more focused on being entertained than actually getting the work done that's required to get better. Say, smash themselves 5 days a week and think that's what's getting better. And then they end up they're getting burnt out, right? Like you said, giving yourself opportunity to where you've got more time to spend outside, then you can start to, all right, inside I'm gonna wear myself out. Outside, I'm just gonna go enjoy the day. Right? A little bit back and forth. But a lot of people, they're straight treadmill, straight trainer, straight pool this year, this time of year. No open water swim, no group rides outside, no hitting to go run and outside with your buddies. It's inside. And it's just mentally exhausting for people. And even those that are, that love Zwift and love Trainer Road or Rouve or Full Gas or any of those software platforms, staring at a digital screen still gets old. It still gets old. It doesn't do anything for you from a human connection standpoint. And that is where people suffer. And I think 3 to 4 years ago, and again, I'm not hating on those platforms. I'm not hating on technology. I think the technology and the opportunities that we have right now are incredible, right? And I think 5 or 6 years ago, they were a perfect complement for what we are and who we were as a human race. We went to work 9 to 5. We did things in the public all the time. We did it. And then what happened was, as we regressed, and now to the extent more people are spending more time in their house. I can order my groceries, have them delivered. I can order anything from Amazon. It's here this afternoon. I don't have to go to work but a couple days a week. I ain't got to see anybody. Nobody. I see no one. But I got my virtual screen and my avatars. What? That will work for a little while. And it did. And it has to an extent. But I can tell you firsthand, personally, and as a coach and working with athletes all over, that the burnout from and I'll tell you right now, most people, the athletes we work with that have gone from running the triathlon, then from triathlon back to just running. So we work with a ton of runners, Boston qualifiers, 50 miles, 100 miles, everyone in between. The people that have gone from the triathlon, the swim, bike, and run to running, a lot of them did it because they need more outside and they need more interaction. We need more nature. We need it. Like if you looked at the studies, and again, I'm right there with you. When I'm training full on, I'll hit the trainer once or twice a week and hammer it out. But if it's not that, then I'm trying to get outside. Road bike, tri bike, mountain bike, whatever it is, just be outside. Running is almost always outside. Swimming obviously is in the pool, but so I'm all a fan for stuff like that. But the obsessive nature of only doing it is eroding people's long-term motivation and dedication to the sport that they really love. But what they want is to find something that they feel is more flexible in making them better in just feeling better. Because when I hear from a lot of athletes, it just fits in my life better. Yeah, totally respect it. And a lot of times it does, right? Because if you're doing run races, then it's easier. You just leave the house. But the last part is what I hear. You just leave the house. Leave the house to go run. Leave the house to go, do whatever. It's leaving the house. And I think that is a huge piece of a small example that, may not totally translate, but that's whatever. It's my analogy. Is yesterday Hayden got home from Columbus around noon. He and Allie went to Columbus, and then they got home, and it was like 55 here yesterday. Beautiful day. Got home, we played outside, and we played soccer, we played football, and then I was like, I'm gonna go inside and take a break for a minute because you're wearing me out. And I come inside, and he was like, all right, I think I want to draw and do something for a little bit. And I was like, that's fine. But then I said, no. I said, you know what? No. You go outside. It is 55 degrees in January in Kansas. Go outside. I said, if you want to go up to the pool, or excuse me, go up to the pool, go up to the school playground. I'll walk up there with you to make sure you got people there, and then you can do that the rest of the afternoon. So we walked up there, and who else was up there? One of his best friends and his dad throwing baseball. He was outside for the next 3.5 hours, running around, doing stuff, not sitting in front of a screen. I mean, obviously drawing and art and all that kind of stuff inside, it's not bad either, but it was like, be outside. Take advantage of it when you can. Don't just assume, right, that you're going to have it next week, right, or that you can. And it was just, and obviously he had a ton of fun. He got to connect with another person, right, with his buddy. He got to have an amazing time, and then rode his bike home with the other guy's dad and a scooter. It was a perfect day for him, or he could have sat inside by himself and drew. Again, that's not bad, but it's just the opportunity to be like, you know what? No, we're not doing this today. Get outside. It's too nice. But we've gotten so, I think, retractive and like, inside's easier. Inside's this. It's easier for me because it's a hell of a lot more effort for me to get my shoes on, walk up to the school, make sure he's done, make sure he's got his watch with him, make sure anything doesn't happen, and or he can know, because he's still 6, right? So I'm dropping him off at school. It's like a quarter mile away. But it's good to have that flexibility. That's as a kid, this, like we would go like 3 miles away from the house and no one had any idea where you were. But it's a different age now, and so yeah, it took more effort, but then it ended up being a huge gain. And I just think that, again, like it's as a 1-to-1 apples to apples, analogy. But no, but the point is get your ass outside, right, and have some fun. Have fun with your training. And so, again, like when you talk about this time of year and the expectations and the pressure, when you only do it and you only live it inside or in your little pain cave or in the basement, it wears on you. And so when you have all these pressures and expectations and you're trying to do way too much intensity, you wonder why you combust in March. When everybody's pumped up and ready to get outside, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're digging a hole with a crowbar right now. You're going to get so frustrated of making no progress that you're going to toss it in. When in March and April, like, hey, take this shovel, take this excavator, you're good to go. You're like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Well, you talk about getting outside, and that was me on Sunday outside running, and I felt, even though it beat me up a little bit, it was just such a invigorating feeling. And I've talked about it before, that time when I lost my phone for 3 days, and I started feeling all kinds of energy. And I think that's just like the trap we all have in front of us, is that we're looking at screens, and frankly, that doesn't give you energy. I'm just here to tell you. I mean, it's like a dopamine rush or whatever. And that's what I kind of found myself doing on Monday after that long run. And that's what I mean by like noticing bad habits, is I started to be like, well, I could go down. Nah, I'm just going to lay back for a minute and like scroll through, Facebook or Twitter or what. You start doing that. And I think it's because it's the easy option and you're tired. I mean, I think to me, that's a good indicator that you're looking for, sort of false energy or something like that. And one of the things I love what you said there, or what Harbaugh said, I should say, is like, don't try to out happy. And that to me almost kind of translates into, stay in the moderation zone. And just, that kind of, I've talked about contentment before, and I had an old business partner. He just always was like never too high, never too low. He's just always like back in the day, the t-shirt guy. And I was like, well, get excited, man. He goes, I'm fine. You know, I'm just right here. You know, it's sort of like that middle way philosophy in Zen. It's just like, just kind of be in the middle. And but it translates to me because I'm always talking to athletes. And you mentioned you were talking about crushing yourself on the trainer and things like that. And my thing is, you know, I kind of get frustrated because I'm like, just, I know you want to do a test, you know, all the time and bump your FTP and really go get it and everything like that. But for me, like, especially this time of the year, is like my biggest goal is just sort of to master where I'm at. You know, just be where you're at, own your current, you know, power or whatever it might be, or pace. And then, you know, just be at a place where you really, really own that before you move. Because if we're setting something too high too early, that becomes a long, long season of training and trying to keep up with something maybe you're not ready for. And I think the best way to go about that is just to, like I said, own where you're at and really master the control of that. And don't push it up too hard. Don't push it too far. And just, you know, like yesterday, man, I got down there and I just was like, I was actually relieved when I made the decision, because I was trying to go do a workout or something. And I was thinking about getting in the pool, but I was exhausted. And I'm like, I was just so relieved when I decided I was just going to walk on a treadmill. I know it wasn't outside and but it was at night and whatever. And I could have easily done that outside, but it just felt so good to do something that felt good, you know, rather than just keep digging deeper with that proverbial crowbar you speak of. And it was like, I can do this right now. And I got a nice little sweat going. It felt good, but I did not feel like I was going deeper. I felt like I was ascending. And I think that that's an interesting concept to think about when you're training, is like, am I getting stronger, or am I getting better, or am I just going to keep getting myself more beat up and weaker as I go? And I think that, you know, we can put in workouts and things like that, but ultimately an athlete has to be their own guide on that, their own gauge. They have to understand how they feel. And if things are mounting on them, it's like you continue to pile more and more and more. And it's just going to hit a breaking point, you know. At some point, something's got to give. So I just think it's really important to keep aware of things day to day. And that's why I always advocate for, no matter what you're doing, no matter when you're doing it, start slow, let your body kind of adjust to it, and then you can make the decision, right? Rather than, it's going to be a tough workout, I'm beat to hell, I haven't eaten well, I haven't slept well, but I got to go get it. And the next thing you know, you might be able to pull it off, but what you're not looking at is 2, 3, 4 days down the line when that can turn into a shitstorm.
Are you walking on glass, or are you walking on concrete? And that is the way to kind of sum up a lot of it, is in terms of, if you're put yourself in a position this time of year to where you're walking on glass and one misstep means you're just going to fall through and fall apart, then it's time to reassess. You know, we always talk about building the foundation, building the cake, and doing things that set yourself up for success. And like you said, you're looking 1, 2, 3, 4 days down the road. You know, if you're one of those people where it's got to go perfect today, you got to kind of like tiptoe your way through your training to make sure it's exactly perfect. There are no missteps in order for me to get all the way to the end. You're done. You're done. And it's just a matter of when, right? It's just a matter of when is it going to happen? February, March, April, a month before your race, right? You see it all the time. Or are you walking on concrete? Right? It's not shiny, right? Unless you get it polished, but it's still not shiny, right? It's thick, it's easy, it's not fancy, but it's sturdy, right? And all I got to do is keep walking. I got to keep moving towards each and every day, week after week, month after month, the race in September, the race in 2 weeks, the race next year, whatever it is, it'll happen. And if you make a misstep, guess what? Nothing's going to happen to it. Nothing. You just clean up your own mess and get back to work. Concrete's not going to get phased, right? That's what you have to think about in terms of laying your own foundation. Again, not talking, you know, like aerobic base here, but just lay your foundation of success and allow yourself to be successful. Put the right training in. Don't make it too hard. Stop making it so often, right? Make it purposeful. Hammering yourself, right, is not a method of getting better, right? It's not strategic. It's not detailed. It's just, you're just flogging. You're just hoping, right? You're swinging away at the wind. And if you miss, it's going to come back around and hit you in the head, right? It's like you don't want to, and a lot of people do that this time of year. They create their own training. They put on a blindfold. They swing at a pinata, which is the race, and they just hope that they hit it, and they crack it open. Nothing but Reese's come out. Well, that's going to happen. Or it might be black licorice, which is, a total fail of a race. Or they're going to swing so hard, right, they're going to miss it, and they're going to fall over and bump their head. That's kind of what happens. And you just have to set yourself up for success in all the ways that you're not thinking about in training. Am I doing too much? Or am I doing it too often? Am I giving myself, time, opportunities to be flexible? Like we have to be more gracious with ourselves in setting ourselves up for success, right? Not lazy, right? In providing opportunities for excuses, but excuses usually pop up when we're not giving ourselves enough flexibility and wiggle room. Right, we've been too hard on ourselves, so our immediate internal, indicators or response is usually going to be, it's time to rebel. Right, too strict, time to rebel. Done to me in a row, time to rebel. Been too strict in my diet. Where's 4 bags of chips and salsa and some cheese dip? Time to rebel. Right, or going on a 5-hour run, we should have gone on an hour run. Right, or we all make those decisions when usually, and the thing is, when we talked about last week, is we're the ones creating the the negative opportunities, right? That we just grab on and then make those decisions last. And it's hard to, and you won't always be able to pick yourself up from it, and it all comes down to decision making and then asking yourself, why am I making bad decisions when I do? Is it because I'm feeling down? Is it because I'm worried? Is it because of my ego? Is it because I'm, not secure? What is it and why am I making it? And I want to know this so I don't make it this. I don't want to make this, the same mistake again or again, right? And put myself right back to where I was before. And it takes a, kind of a thoughtful athlete to work their way through those things. It's one of the most common things I comment with in Training Peaks with athletes that I work with for a long period of time is like, this is a really responsible, mature decision. Right. And the one you wouldn't have made maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But it's when you can really see athletes shine. And if you're really trying to protect, right, and produce for the next year, 2, 3, 4 years, you really, really do care about today. Not as in a vacuum, but as in how's it going to affect tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And if you want to be up and at it and sleep good and ready to roll the next day and not be more, susceptible for bad choices and mistakes and bad decisions, then look at the things that do that. Eating like crap, sleeping like crap, drinking like crap. It's an easy one. Crap in, crap out. That's it. It's one of the easiest things to kind of simplify in life in terms of, our attitude and how we go about things. It's that simple, right? More stress. That's more crap in, then it's going to be crap out. How you feel, how you react. You're going to battle stress by, you're going to go to sleep early? Nah. What I'm going to do is stay up late, watch a show, and eat like crap. And you want to know why the next day you feel even worse. And it's just these small decisions, they all add up, and they can add up to make things better, or they can add up to make things worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's very easy to notice when you feel like crap. And it seems a little harder to notice, when you feel good. And it's interesting to think about in terms of like if you get done with a workout and you're like, man, I feel good, or you're in a workout, man, I feel good. It's really hard to walk away when you feel good. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of us have a tendency to kind of push the envelope into the like, well, no, I got to make this feel. I got to feel this. I got to make it hurt a little bit, or I got to push it to a limit, where I know I'm getting something out of it. I think that's a weird little thing, and it's very difficult to kind of walk away when you're feeling good. And I think maybe a lot of times for me, that is really the goal. I want to be feeling good and looking forward to tomorrow versus like, man, maybe I should go an extra 20 minutes here and just, really feel it. It's like, it just seems like that's sort of the tendency. And I think there's times and places for that. I mean, you should definitely not feel shelled every day of the week, maybe a couple times here and there, where you kind of push yourself and be like, damn. But again, you can push yourself to certain limits, and it doesn't have to shell you. It's sort of a building in a proper manner kind of thing. And it's like, if I'm targeting X amount of watts and I go to XYZ level, that's too much, but you can kind of push it up a little bit if you're feeling good. I always advocate that, but not overdo it. I think that's the thing, right? It's like we feel good and we want to just push, push, push. And it's very difficult for us to recognize when we're feeling good. You mentioned something earlier. It's, you're talking about, maybe crashing and burning. And if on certain certain paths, it's just a matter of time, or it's just a matter of when, is what you said, I think. And I also think that it's just a matter of when you'll start really feeling the gains if you stay within yourself. It's just like, it's a patience game. We get in there every day, and it's not like, a 12-round prize fight. It should just be a couple little spars here and there, and just kind of keep moving in the right direction and build that understanding and that base of knowing what feels good and what kind of just pushed you a little bit. And some days, you might not need any push. You just might need to be moving. And hopefully it feels nice and easy, and then you can walk away from it. It's very difficult to walk away from easy things sometimes, I think, because if you've got energy, it's almost like, why can't we accept the fact that we have good energy, without trying to deplete it? And I think if you it's almost like topping off your energy stores. Just keep doing that once in a while, and then you have a nice store, and then you can push it a little bit. But I think a lot of times in the continuum of energy reserves, we flirt with the edge a little much, if that makes sense. I think that, maybe we have a little extra, and so it's like, let's just use it instead of topping it off. Let's just keep topping it off. And then when we got a really good, base of energy, then we can kind of push it a little bit. But we're always kind of flirting with that edge of it. It's like, I'm back, a little bit. And then I'm going to just drain it instead of just building it up and getting that tank back to where it needs to be to actually go the way you need to go once in a while.
It's that level of restraint. That's like, am I okay getting a little bit back, a little bit of it back today? Or do I feel like I have to have all of it? Right. And it's that impulse, got to have it all right now mentality that we've just kind of fallen into as a society. Like, I'd rather have $50 today than $80 in 2 days. Just give it to me right now. What's right now? I don't want to wait. Just give me another. Well, it'll be on sale in a month. Nah. How much am I gonna save? $400? No, I want it right now. Right? That's the mentality, and that's the chasing of what gets you in trouble, right? But the chasing is like, I want to chase it today, and I gotta get it all today. I gotta have this feeling today, even though it's gonna wreck me and create a negative feeling tomorrow. I want it all today. I want it all today. Damn tomorrow, right? And so you're thinking of just today, but in the negative way, right? Of what it's going to create for the next day. And it's just it's an important thing, I think, to focus on and realize and be objective with, right? And if you don't have a coach, you're self-coach, like, find a buddy or somebody that can rein you in, that can kind of check you, when you're being an idiot. That's what coaches are for, right? They check you in when you're being an idiot. Don't be an idiot. Don't be stupid. Be responsible today. Think long term, right? And that's what coaches do, right? They have your best interests in heart. And athletes do originally when they're self-coach or where they have your own interest in heart, but your interest is always going to be, there's always going to be a conflict of interest, right, between ego and self-doubt. And once you create those two, they're like the CEO and the CFO. You're kind of like down there as like the treasurer. You might be in the door. The other ones make the decisions, and then you end up kind of having to pay for it. We can close it out there. It's just, understand and realize what you're paying for. Are you paying for it all today, or are you willing to have it all down the road? When race day, when it really matters. And what are you doing to set yourself up for success each day in a positive way, right? Not having to, make magic and PRs happen every single day, but inching your way forward, they always say, like, an inch is a cinch. And that's how you have to think about training. That's it. I can make it an inch today. That's it. All you gotta do is that. And I think that'll not only get you farther, right? It might take longer, but it'll get you farther, in both in life and in training. And you'll have a better result when you get there. And it's one of those things that I think, again, is when we want it all, or we want to keep things, really high and the expectations soaring, the fall is really, really difficult, on people. So I think that's just one of the things that we all have to remind ourselves of this time of year is, to not chase things, and to remember, how I feel today directly impacts, and the decisions on that directly impact how I feel tomorrow, and all those together will accumulate and decide how I'm going to feel on race day.
An inch is a cinch. That's what they always say, huh?
An inch is a cinch.
I have heard it, but who always says that?
I have no idea.
Mimi?
I have no idea who says an inch is a cinch.
You just did. That's what they always say. An inch is a cinch.
I can't claim it, though. I'm definitely not claiming that.
Well, I know that's an old school term, man.
That was
around before you were.
What?
Maybe that was around before you were. Maybe the Rockefellers or somebody came up with that.
Oh, it's an inch is a cinch, a yard is hard is the whole quote. But yeah, I have no idea who said that. Probably some contractor somewhere.
Some contractor.
Yes, a contractor doing it inch by inch. Yeah, I got no idea. But as always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. We hope you're having a great start to the week. And again, as always, we thank you for tuning in. We get a lot of requests for Patreon or ways to support the podcast. The best way to do that is to go to our website, click on the gear button, and pick out some gear for yourself. Treat yourself and pick out some of our awesome C26 gear. That's the best way to support the podcast. Do that and leave us a review on iTunes. Those are honestly the two best ways to support the cast. So do that. And if you have any other questions on the things we do, camps, or coaching, that is on the website as well. If you need anything from Mike specifically, he's available, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
Damn it, I forgot to bring the gear up at the beginning.
I know, we suck.
We suck at that. But yeah, if you order some gear, I'll drop a little, I'll make a little personalized note in there for you. I kind of do that most of the time. So that'd be cool. We've got a bunch of gear we need to move, and it would look good on your body.
And it would. Yep. It complements it. It's kind of like hot sauce. It's not because it doesn't look good or taste good. It's because it's a compliment. Hot sauce is a compliment to your food. We hope this podcast complimented your day. We'll see you on Thursday.
All right, man. I'll see you.
See you, dude.